Hey guys, Lizardlea here for Star Wars Stormtrooper Day 10. So, that's the progress from Day 9. And the nice thing is, I already have it marked for where I was going to continue with the color I was on. So, yay. It's been a while since I've cross-stitched. It's been hectic. We moved twice last year. We got married. We bought a house. We had our honeymoon. I got a promotion. I'm salaried now. Like it's just been crazy. So, yeah, I'm sorry it's been so long. I am absolutely gonna go back to Foil Heavenly Beasts at some point. It's right here. It's in bubble wrap because, 2 moves and I didn't want anything to happen to it. Just saying. Yeah, we still haven't finished actually moving in. You can see this huge TV still here on the floor and the TV mount that it's not gonna go on because it's too heavy, but whatever. Yeah, David and I have been keeping a tab of the things we're reading and watching and all of that. So we have plenty to talk about. Hopefully he will join me for most narrations. I don't think I'm ever going to go back to 1 video a week. That schedule was very hectic. So even if I cross-stitch every weekend, I'm not going to put out a video every weekend because I don't want to do that anymore. So yeah. Oh, and the blinds right here are super broken. So I don't know how this is gonna work. I can't open it from the bottom in order to have some sunlight. So I've got my trusty lamp here. Hopefully this helps.
All right, back after a very, 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 very long break. I have David here. He's now my
David.
husband. So
I am now here.
Husband.
I am here now.
And I've been trying to keep a list of what we have watched since the last cross stitch video, and one of the first things was Freerin, which is a spectacular anime that I would happily recommend to pretty much anyone.
Yeah.
Like, unless you specifically hate slice of life, cutesy stories or something, I could understand being like, okay, it's not for you. But, like, I feel like this is a perfect, like, introduction anime to anybody.
It's up there. There's still some... There's none of the weirdness. There's still some, like, well, it's a fantasy thing, and it's kind of a romancy thing for half of it. For an start.
I mean, I don't even think it's half of it, because it felt like a very, very small portion of the second half.
But the point being that it's... Doesn't matter.
The seasonal cough is back, by the way.
Yes, of course. So, yeah, no, I think it's good, though, and it's an easy show to watch.
Yeah, I really liked it. It's about an elf who is, 200 years old?
We don't know.
Oh, yeah, we don't know. Okay, but she's been around and, like, famous or whatever since a couple hundred years ago.
We don't even know that. All we know is that... So the start of the show is she's part of a group of heroes who went and defeated the big bad. It's like the end of the Lord of the Rings. They're all breaking up because, yep, we defeated Sauron. In this case, it's the Demon King. And Freerin being an elf, which is incredibly long-lived. And then there's a dwarf, and then 2 humans, a priest and a hero. A fighter, basically. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, yeah, I guess I'll stop by and say hi to you guys. We'll come watch this meteor shower that we're watching right now that only shows up once every 50 years, so I'll see you all in 50 years. So she comes back in 50 years, and of course, the humans have aged tremendously. Like the guy who was the hero, who was this good-looking ladies' man.
That was this short, fat guy.
Yeah, he's a short, bald, bearded guy. And he's, so they go and they watch the meteor shower, and then he passes away because he's ancient.
And that's when she finally understands. Oh, well, no, she doesn't even ever truly understand that, you know, she ages just so much slower than anyone else. Like, she'll be like, oh, yeah, let's go train. And, like, to somebody else, it'd be like, okay, we're going to train for, like, the next 3 months. But for her, it's like, yeah, it could be 30 years. Like, you know, that is not a significant length of time to her.
So the main point is she realizes that she was such a huge part of Himmel's life, and yet she felt like she had barely gotten to know him, because to an elf it was no time at all. And so she starts to realize that she needs to live her life maybe a little differently and try to get to know the people she cares about better, because she doesn't have all that much time with them from her perspective, because 50 years is nothing. So that's where the story starts, and it spends the first little mini arc kind of really hammering home just how different time is for her. Like, we see like 13 years go by in like 3 episodes, I want to say, or something like that.
And of course, nothing changes for her. She doesn't age. Like, she still looks like,
identical.
Yeah, like what, maybe 17, 18? She looks young.
And the dwarf is definitely older too. Like, he
even says, like, oh yeah, I'm not going to live that much longer.
Yeah.
But obviously he has a longer lifespan than a human.
Right. And so she winds up sort of having someone recruited upon her who's a young child. And you get to see them grow up with her very quickly, because, again, we're kind of time skipping a lot. And then it finally slows down, and it's like, okay, this is the party, this is the quest, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it. And it goes from there. And it does a good job of sort of setting up the premise, and there's also a lot of really interesting mysteries of things that, like, the characters clearly know, but you, the viewer, do not, because that's the intent. There's some ambiguity about what exactly happened when they defeated the Demon King, and demons are still definitely a thing, and like there's a lot of what's going on there. But the world is really, really cool. It manages most of its stuff really well. It doesn't do a lot of the really annoying and obnoxious anime tropes. There's like a small little romance, but it's not
fan servicey at all.
No, it's not fan servicey, and it's not hyper annoying where it's like, it's
actually like really cute. Like, they are so clearly teenagers. Yeah. It is adorable.
There's a little bit that's tropey, but it's even if that stuff annoys you, it's minor and easy to look past. So but yeah, there's one arc that's definitely more, it's the tournament arc.
I really liked the tournament arc.
It's a good tournament arc for the most part.
Yu Yu Hakusho is still the best tournament arc ever with the Dark Tournament, but I really enjoyed it.
It's got more mass appeal than most tournament arcs would, because it's not just 2 people standing in a room screaming at each other and trying to kill each other. There's actually like these different quests and goals. And they introduce a large group of really interesting characters, and that's what really makes the show is
all of the interesting characters.
Yeah,
and almost all of them have different power sets and different magic abilities.
Yeah.
And I think almost every single one of them is really interesting.
Yes, there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on. There's sort of the JJK, like, oh wow, these people, like, even for the world they're in, this is a whole gang of, like, ridiculously powerful people instead of whatever. I think the biggest sticking point is probably the 2 girls from the tournament arc. That would probably be annoying to people who don't normally watch anime, because it was annoying to us.
The clear lesbians?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
like, I remember for a little while I thought they were cute, and then I was like, all right, you're pushing this too much. Like, this is not a romance anime. I get it, but especially like one of them was so much just like clearly devoted to the other that it was frustrating.
Well, I mean, it's, again, my biggest complaint with it is it's a trope you've seen 1,000 times before. It's like, this is all these characters really are. And even then, this show does a good job of not doing that as badly as many others, where it's like, wow, they literally have nothing else to say except,
oh, hey, we're in love.
Or, checking off the trope boxes of, like, we're in love, but we're not,
Like, I remember the 2 of them having really interesting magical powers.
Yeah, no, they do.
So, it's not the worst time I've ever seen that trope done.
No. And yeah, the characters in general are really cool, and there's also a lot of like flashbacks to her journey with the party that defeated the Demon King. And I'd say my only major complaint with the show is one of, and so I'm just going to say it right now for those of you who will also be bugged by it. It annoys me how many people don't recognize or properly assess the threat that the main character is. One, she does not look any different. And yes, it's a fantasy world, but they had statues of them made in just about every city they went to. So it's like, wow, that looks like the elf that helped kill the Demon King. Already kind of like, maybe I shouldn't, I don't know, spit on this person in the driveway or whatever.
See, and that one didn't bother me as much because, one, their elves aren't super common, so I could understand why people would just not have it in their consciousness that, like, elves live forever, basically. And then, I lost my train of thought for my other one.
Sorry.
What was the other one? Oh, she specifically works very hard to hide her magic levels.
Yeah, but
it is really hard for people to determine how much mana she has, to the point that some people can't even detect her mana.
I don't.
That is
in
why
the universe,
I had no problem
she is
with
also like the Albert Einstein of magic. She is literally the founder of all combat magic that they currently use. Like, not... if you walked around and you saw a painter and they were missing an ear and they were painting a field of flowers or weird abstract impressionist stuff, you'd be really, really bad at painting if you didn't go, I think that's Van Gogh. The only reason you wouldn't think that in real life is because he'd be dead. But if you knew that Van Gogh was an elf, and elves live forever, and he's missing a freaking ear, like,
okay, see, but like you're harping on it. Looks like her, and she's wearing the same clothes.
No, it looks like her.
Missing an ear is way more recognizable than just it's a pretty little girl.
It's not the fact that she's missing an ear. It's the fact that she's wearing the exact same clothes, has the exact same appearance. I'm not going to drop this, and she 100% is like. The part of the other problem is that it's not like there's a bunch of elves, as Liz just mentioned. Elves are incredibly rare, but every elf that anyone meets is incredible. Now, I would understand if the average everyday person doesn't know this. That I don't mind. If you're some random peasant in medieval fantasy land, like, oh, that looks kind of like the statue. That's weird. Like, you're not going to throw down with her. And if you're the idiot at the bar who, like, you know, gets into a fight with her or something, she's not going to murder you. You know, you're just going to probably wind up making a fool out of yourself and not know that she was super powerful and could have wiped the floor with you. But there is an entire arc based on the premise that there's a bunch of other mages that are, one, don't recognize her on sight, and two, continuously underestimate her. And I'm sorry, but like it's one of the few weak points of the plot. That's why I'm harping about it now, because I think it's a major... It did not ruin my enjoyment of the show. I've seen a lot of people who are like, well, they ruined this one thing and they didn't think it through, and so nothing makes sense. I was just watching somebody... Who was it? Oh, it's one of the... Collier, or whatever it is, the physicist girl. She was talking about Titanic and how it's a great science movie, but everyone argues about whether or not Jack could have fit on the door. And it's like, the buoyancy of pine is not the point of this film. There's so much else to discuss.
That will always bother me, because they showed you in the movie when Jack tried to get onto it that it would not stay afloat.
Right.
They already answered every single person's argument with this.
But
and
the point being,
done.
If you're the kind of person who just is going to grasp onto that, then maybe this isn't the show for you. But otherwise, like, I normally don't get this heated about these things. I just, given how well written and well thought out the rest of the show is in regards to its world, in regards to how it handles things, in regards to like a lot of interesting mysteries that I'm curious to see where they go. I haven't spoiled anything for the manga because... Well, one, because the only things I've had spoiled are mostly people arguing over stuff that does not matter, in my opinion. And then two, because I just want to see how this plays out, and hopefully they'll finish it. But this struck me as incredibly contrived writing for the sake of plot, when I feel like they could have accomplished it like 7 other ways, like have her change her appearance slightly, have other elves be there. Hell, have everyone recognize her and assess her as strong, and then still not realize that, oh no, even in your wildest dreams, she's worse than that. Because that's literally the point. It felt very weak that a lot of supposedly smart characters are like, you look a bit like that Van Gogh person, and you use his art and his brush, and you're the she literally wrote the book on killing demons. That's an in-lore thing.
That's true.
Anyways, I could ramble about that all day, but it's the one thing that held me up on it because it's such a great show. I could talk about the rest of the show, but I don't want to spoil the good parts because I think it's worth seeing, and unlike many shows that are in anime, this is one of those ones that I think would be an easy thing for anyone to watch. There's no, like, oh, sorry, yeah, there's a bunch of gross fan service, or, oh, yeah, they're just loud for no reason, or, oh, yeah.
There's really weird humor that if you're, you know, not used to it yet, or you're not Japanese, you're not going to get it.
Or these tropes are just everywhere, and it's fine because whatever, or it's just, like, soppy romance, or, oh, it's just a bunch of people screaming and out their special techniques and using them. The actual story does a really good job of the sort of... it reminds me of The Hobbit. Not the movie. The movies don't exist.
The book.
Because the movies also did what The Hobbit... Or did not do what The Hobbit did and what Frieren does, which is it's about the journey. And it's... While it gets bogged down in little... Oh, maybe not bogged down. While it dives into little arcs, I was getting worried at one point, especially the tournament arc, that I'm like, oh, this is going to be like the next... They've done their... There's a thing, if you've watched a lot of manga or anime, that you'll see where it's like, oh wow, this show has a really cool premise, and it lasts for about a season, and then the writer either runs out of ideas, never planned ahead in the first place, whatever, but now they've got a hit on their hands, so they're like, well, I'll just do what Dragon Ball did, and we'll have, you know, death battles or whatever.
Yeah, over and over and over.
Yeah, and so I was really worried that that's what Frieren was about to do, but no, it does move on to the next thing, and even though... There's moments where you're like, oh, this is going to be the next plot for the whole season or something. No, it's over. We're moving on to the next thing. We're moving on to the next thing. Don't know if it keeps that up, but at least for the first season, it was phenomenal. Really, really good. Easily one of my favorite animes. Easily one of the best animes in the last 5-10 years. I don't know. I'd have to look. But it's very watchable, very fun. I wouldn't mind rewatching it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's a lot of really epic moments. There's one other... I think agreed upon by just about everybody, missed opportunity where they could have done something kind of clever, or rather, something occurs, and I don't want to spoil this again, but they need to solve this problem. And there's a very clever solution that just about everyone watching the show goes, oh, I bet it'll be this. And instead, because they want to have a cool moment and because they want to further a major plot point, they have this big fight occur instead. And it's like, okay, that was a cool fight. It does have narrative significance. I understand why you showed that fight because you need to demonstrate a point you're trying to make in the lore and in the plot. However, it's a shame you did not at least touch upon or have someone make a gag about the obvious solutions that people like me, Liz, and my friends all said, like, well, wouldn't you just...
Okay, so I was listening to him, and for the first part of that, I was like, what the heck is he talking about? And then it got to the point where I was like, oh, I know exactly what he means. And yes, 1,000%, yes.
Like, they should have at least mentioned it. Like, couldn't we just blah? Like, no, that wouldn't actually work. I mean,
if they tried it and then it didn't work, I could have accepted it. But I do wish they had tried it, and I feel like it should have worked.
I wish they tried it, and I can think of, 3 reasons that could have not worked, and I wouldn't have minded if it had worked, because it would have been a really clever way.
It would have been great if it worked.
It might have been a little bit of an anticlimax, but it also would have been a really clever way to take the question that the situation is trying to address and kind of kick the can down the road a little, so you can save it for later. I sort of appreciate that they didn't do that in some ways, because it's nice when a story has the
balls to actually...
move the plot and to show things. This one wasn't quite as big. It's not like, oh, wow, we're already revealing these big secrets like some other things I've seen, as opposed to other animes that go, oh, here's a secret. We won't get to it for 4 seasons. What's the secret? It's another secret! It's 2 other secrets. Mystery plot pyramid scheme. But yeah, it's really, really good. It also, for the record, is gorgeously animated.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful.
Even just the normal scenes are gorgeous. And then when they want to do the big fight scenes and the cool magic scenes, they really have a unique and cool style. So
there's at least one dragon, you guys. I'm just saying. You know, if you're on my channel, you probably know how obsessed I am with dragons. So there's a dragon.
There is at least an dragon. The characters are quite funny. It's really good at having like a touching plot underneath it all. Again, like the only concern I have about the show is, can you keep this up? Can you stick the landing? Because that's really hard to do. Like, I don't know of a lot of shows or stories that stick the landing, period. Like, at least to the extent that people want. There's at least one manga that Liz and John want me to finish that I'll probably finish eventually here.
JJK, for anybody curious.
Yeah, that I just haven't finished.
Yeah, and it would take him like 5 minutes. He's basically at the end.
It really would. I keep forgetting.
No, you don't. You just refuse to.
No, I mostly forget because I'm like, oh, I'll go lay down and read it, and that'll do it tonight. And then I like lay down and I just
fall asleep or do something else on your phone.
I do something on my phone, or I've been reading Sanderson or other stuff. But yeah, learning Helix. But yeah, it's hard to stick landings, and it's also hard to keep. To JJK's credit, it's a good example, I think, of keeping, at least up until the supposedly disappointing ending, the idea moving for the most part. Where the idea is like, everyone's cool, everyone gets cool moments. Naruto, everyone's cool, everyone gets cool moments. Okay, screw that, out the window. It's the Naruto and Sasuke show.
Yeah, that was frustrating.
JJK kept it going. I'm curious if Frieren can keep it going, because what they've got going is really good storytelling and a really interesting story. And the kind of story that too many people, like too many media things are afraid to tell, where it's like, well, we can't just have people traveling and learning about themselves and life and whatever. Like, you know, we have to have a bad guy to blow up and a romance and a this and a that. And like, Frieren manages to hit those beats, but still keep it about the journey. And that's what makes it interesting.
I feel like as long as like the publishers of the manga don't get too heavily involved, like, you know, the Yu Yu Hakusho problem.
Yeah.
And I love that manga and the anime. He wanted to stop after like the Dark Tournament or something, and they're like, "Oh no, you have to keep it going. You have to keep going." And you can tell, like, yeah, like he was still involved in it, but his heart wasn't there. It wasn't the same. If they had just let him do what he wanted, it would have been so much better. What?
So, I don't know if this is actually true. It's not his heart wasn't in it. It's he was actively hostile to the concept and said, fine. Again, I don't know if this is true. It's just what I've heard. But that he basically said, fine, you guys want me to keep writing? I'm just going to keep writing the same story over and over until you cancel me. And that's how he got out of it. And that's why after the Dark Tournament, he does 2 more Dark Tournaments. Which is another example of, oh, hey, this has a cool idea, but hey, we're just going to do the thing over.
Season 3 was spectacular. Season 4 was just another tournament. Season 3 was more.
I don't know. This is what I've heard. I haven't watched any of it, so.
Yeah. Like, if they just back off and let the artist do what they have planned, I'm sure it'll go great. But it's Japan, and yeah,
to be a little bit fair to producers and whatnot, like, you know, you have the George R.R. Martin problem on the other side, where it's like the artist roughly knows what they want to do, but they don't know how to do it. And that's one, I think, for the record, Martin writes really, really well because of the way he writes, and that if he were to write like Stephen King, it wouldn't be as good, yada, yada, yada. But I understand their concern, where it's like, well, look, this thing's printing money, our job is to make money, you're going to write more chapters. Oh, I just don't have anything that, you know, I don't know how to get to the ending. Like, well, then here's a bunch of scripts we've read before. Pick one, do it until you figure out how to get out of it. You know, like you're doing Dark Tournament arcs until you figure out how to continue the story, because either way we're printing this because that's the deal. Like, I kind of understand that from a business perspective. Japan can be notorious for being really, really bad about it, but I also do see the other side where it's like, you get Berserk, where, you know, the artist took 6 months to do a chapter that was gorgeous, and unfortunately, he died young due to the amount of stress he probably put himself through just doing that. And
he put himself through it.
For the most part, yeah. He, like, his standards and his work ethic were insane.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't I don't believe it was well, there's something to be said where it's like, I believe the industry kind of encourages these behaviors and practices.
They absolutely do.
But at the same time, to my understanding, that's just kind of how he was. But I'm speaking way out of my knowledge here, so I would not be surprised if, once again, I am just horribly wrong. But yeah, like, I do know they talked about how his work ethic was. I think it was Super iPatch Wolf had a video on him, how he would,
yeah, that
where,
sounds
like,
right.
He works, like, you know, from like 4 in the morning.
Yeah, and he would sleep for like 4 hours, maybe
2 at night till midnight, and then does it all again the next day.
Yeah,
like, over
he
and
was
over
insane,
and over.
and the level of detail in his artwork was literally
record, if you're curious about Berserk, it is horrific. It is absolutely not for everyone. It's incredibly well made. Content warnings. Just
all of the bad things you can think of happen in that manga.
Yeah, to some extent or another.
If you are not comfortable with, all of the horrible things that happen in, horror things, don't read it.
It's not just for the sake of, this would be horrible. It's actually well done. That's why it's so famous.
But everything has a purpose, but it's still horrible.
And that kind of comes back to Frieren, where again, it's like, it's using these tropes for a reason. It's not just using them to fill time where it's like, I don't know what character I need, or, we need this kind of romance on the episode, or we need someone who's shy, and, it does very, very well. And that's, it's really interesting because there's a lot of, there's several characters you meet along the way who are temporary, but are still out there in the world. And there's definitely a lot of I wonder what's going to happen with them later, because obviously they're not done with them. They're important for some reason. And so, given Frieren is one of the few shows that does a good time skip, but it does it early. I'm curious if it's going to be one of the shows that will do another time skip, because it has a good excuse to, given that the whole point is this elf is ancient and to her it's nothing. So we've already kind of time skipped up to one of the main characters who starts out as a little girl being a teenager. It would be interesting if they did another 10, 20, or even 30-year time skip throughout the story to see these people as adults or whatever. Or, really gutsy would be it's a 100-year time skip and we're dealing with
No, you can't skip that far because my ship must ship first.
Well, you'll be dealing with their, grandchild.
See, that means my ship shipped.
Yeah.
But I want to see my ship ship.
Your ship?
I said it. You heard me.
Ship needs to ship?
Yes. My ship needs to ship.
How much ship would a ship if a ship could ship? I have talents. I don't use them, but I have talents.
I recommend it.
Yeah, I also recommend it. It's a really, really easy recommendation.
It's not, one of the horrible things we often discuss on this channel.
Yeah. I don't have much else to say unless you do.
No.
Okay.
And we're at the end.
Yay!
Woo!
And that is the end of Star Wars Stormtrooper Day 10. My eyes are killing me, and I only got an hour and 39 minutes of footage, but I finished that color. So that light blue is done officially. I didn't do anything at the top, but so yeah, but progress is progress, and I haven't cross-stitched in a year, so my eyes just aren't used to being right here at this point. So yeah, I was listening to Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I started it a year ago, and I know I'm past the point, so right now I'm at the 4-hour mark. But I was like, if I start up exactly where I was before, I don't remember everything. So everything I've listened to up to this point, I have already heard. But there was a ton that I'd forgotten, so it's a good thing I did this. Yeah. I'm hungry, and I want to rest my eyes. I'm hoping once we can get the blinds fixed, and I can open the blinds, it'll be easier because the light will be coming from behind the fabric rather than my lamp over here, which is just not ideal, unfortunately. So yeah, like, subscribe, share, comment, all that jazz. I'll see you guys in the next video. I haven't done that in so long. My bad, my bad. But hey, I'm married now. We have a house.